Imagine a personal family court battle unfolding right here in Texas. But it's not just about custody or finances like you might expect. Instead, this seemingly ordinary courtroom transforms into, well, a high-stakes arena where one individual is absolutely convinced he's battling a global criminal network. We're talking claims of espionage, psychological warfare, even alleged assassination plots, all playing out amidst legal filings. It's quite a story.
It really is. And what's truly fascinating here, I think, beyond just the sheer audacity of these claims, is how meticulously he presents these extraordinary allegations, all within the seemingly standard framework of a divorce and custody dispute. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the astonishing claims of Reynaldo J. Aguiar-Marcano. He believes his family court issues are intrinsically linked to this vast, shadowy organization he actually calls the PayPal Mafia.
Okay, the PayPal Mafia. Let's definitely unpack this. Our mission today is to explore his evidence, his intricate legal strategies, and these remarkably detailed technical concepts he's developed, all aimed at exposing this alleged network. Everything we'll discuss is drawn directly from the documents, the court filings, and recorded conversations he shared. Fascinating stuff. We're here to really understand this complex narrative, try to separate the legal facts from the espionage allegations, and trace the intricate connections he's drawn for the court, even when they seem to stretch way beyond typical family law.
Right. And this isn't just one man's fight against, a perceived global threat. Not at all. This deep dive, it's really about how information, how advanced technology, even our legal systems can potentially be weaponized, or at least how someone perceives them as being weaponized. It explores how individuals perceive and respond to these profound, often invisible threats in our increasingly interconnected and, frankly, surveilled world. Get ready for some surprising details, because they really do challenge your understanding of, well, reality and the legal system itself.
Absolutely. So let's start where this narrative really takes center stage. A Texas courtroom. Picture this. September 8th, 2025, Fort Bend County, Texas. Aguiar-Marcano finds himself before Judge Oscar Telfair III for a family court hearing. The main focus: his ongoing divorce from Gloria Espina, and specifically a motion for a psychiatric evaluation filed against him. Now, that might sound somewhat standard in contentious divorces, but in Aguiar-Marcano's narrative, it becomes something far more sinister.
Yes, and what's absolutely crucial to understand about that specific day, September 8th, is a precedent-setting moment. It happened earlier in Judge Telfair's courtroom, even before Aguiar-Marcano's case was called up. During the morning docket readings, an attorney, representing a party in a totally different, unrelated divorce case, openly admitted something pretty shocking. He told the judge, point blank, that they had filed a motion to coerce the other party into a settlement. Not subtle at all. A direct statement using the legal process for leverage.
Wow. Okay. And how did the judge react to that? Because that sounds like something a judge wouldn't take lightly.
Exactly. Yeah. And according to Aguiar-Marcano's detailed account, Judge Telfair reportedly went ballistic. That's the word used. He immediately stopped the attorney, demanded the motion be withdrawn right then and there. He called it a blatant abuse of court and said it was wasting precious county resources. So this was a pivotal moment, right? It established a very clear, very public standard for judicial integrity against what the judge explicitly called bad faith litigation. He drew a line, basically saying the court's resources, its processes, they are not to be weaponized for strategic advantage.
Right. He laid down the law, so to speak.
He absolutely did. It established this public benchmark for how Judge Telfair viewed the misuse of court procedures. Zero tolerance. And this context becomes incredibly relevant when we look at Aguiar-Marcano's own situation, scheduled later that same day. Because his former partner, Gloria Espina, through her legal counsel, Morgan Hibner of the Adams Law Firm, which, by the way, Aguiar-Marcano satirically calls ACME Law, had filed a motion for his psychiatric evaluation.
Okay. So the parallel is immediately obvious.
Right. And Aguiar-Marcano saw a direct, and for him, deeply troubling parallel to the morning's case. He argued and alleges that this motion for his psych eval wasn't filed out of genuine concern. Not at all. He claims it was filed as a weapon, pure and simple. To pressure him into a settlement, or maybe even to silence his claims about this alleged network, and he believed he had the smoking gun. Exhibit 2. This is a certified transcript of a recorded conversation from June 30th, 2025. In this recording, he claims Gloria Espina admitted that if a settlement had been reached just 3 days earlier, June 27th, the psychiatric evaluation wouldn't have been needed. The transcript apparently shows a direct exchange. He asked her if the evaluation was a weapon, and her response, according to the transcript, a clear, unambiguous, correct.
Correct. Wow, that's incredibly direct, if accurate.
It's a profoundly significant piece of alleged evidence, isn't it? Because it directly mirrors the very behavior the judge had just condemned so vehemently hours before. So, Igor Marcano tried repeatedly, he says, to introduce this exhibit. He wanted to draw that exact parallel to the morning's precedent. He argued, that the court should apply the exact same standard of justice to his case, treat it the same way. However, he was reportedly stopped in his tracks. The judge, he claims, ruled against admitting this crucial piece of evidence, refused to let him fully argue that this motion, too, was an abuse of court, despite the alleged admission on tape and the morning's very explicit ruling.
So he had the precedent from that same morning. He had the alleged taped admission and still couldn't get it heard.
That's his claim, blocked. Which leads to this interesting perspective he has on the outcome. From his viewpoint, he felt like he lost procedurally right then and there. His key evidence was out, his argument stifled, but in a very strategic twist, he also believes he profoundly won. How? By creating a legal record of what he sees as inconsistent judicial treatment on the exact same issue, before the same judge, on the very same day. He sees this as clear, irrefutable grounds for appeal down the road. He thinks it exposes bias, or at minimum, a serious inconsistency in how justice was applied specifically in his case. It's almost like a calculated legal move, finding victory even in apparent defeat. Precisely. This procedural outcome, even though it felt like a loss in the moment, became a strategic victory within his larger narrative. It allowed him to document the situation where, in his view, the court appeared to apply different standards. That gives him substantial leverage for future legal action, especially on appeal. The integrity of the judicial process, the consistent application of its own standards, that's fundamental. For Igor Marcano, this moment solidified his belief that his case was being handled differently. Why? Because of the alleged influence of this PayPal mafia. He argues that by forcing the court to create this inconsistent record, he effectively exposed a vulnerability in the network's supposed local operations. He wasn't just fighting a divorce anymore, he was fighting what he perceived as a targeted legal assault. And he thinks he scored a point by revealing the system's alleged inconsistency.
It's truly striking. Okay, so we've seen how he navigated the immediate battleground of that Texas family court, interpreting every procedural nuance through this deeply conspiratorial lens. But to really grasp the scale of his fight, we need to zoom out, way out. Because in his world, this local dispute is just a frontline skirmish, a minor battle in an alleged global conflict waged against what he calls the PayPal Mafia.
This is where his narrative takes an absolutely astonishing turn, connecting his personal legal troubles to a vast, alleged global criminal enterprise.
And this is where Igor Marcano's technical background, combined with his, frankly, obsessive research, really comes into play. He didn't just allege this network exists, he claims he developed a sophisticated counteroffensive, a distributed computing system he actually named the Spyhell pipeline. The explicit purpose of this pipeline, he explains, is to decode the network's intricate structure by analyzing something he calls a captured geo-index. He posits this PayPal mafia originated with early PayPal founders, yes, including Elon Musk, whom Igor Marcano identifies as a technical ringleader. This network, he claims, coordinates vast illegal operations, surveillance, psychological warfare, you name it, through a proprietary mesh network underpinning everything they do.
Captured Geo-Index. Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a spy novel. What exactly is that, and how does he claim he got his hands on it? Especially if it's proprietary to a network he alleges includes figures like, well, Elon Musk.
Right, it sounds incredible. According to Igor Marcano, he successfully acquired what he calls Elon Musk's Geo-Index. He describes this as a proprietary but crucially unencrypted digital map. It was cleverly disguised, he says, as obscure research data hosted on a server at a French research institute.
A French research institute?
That's the claim. He asserts that this Geo-Index is the alleged network's central nervous system. It's the master map coordinating agents, assets, operations globally. He believes the network made a fundamental security blunder by storing it unencrypted. They relied, he thinks, on security by obscurity, just hiding it, thinking its location and disguised form would be enough. His Spyhell pipeline, the system he built, was specifically designed to ingest this raw data, interpret it, and turn what looked like an innocuous data set into, well, a blueprint of alleged global crime.
Okay, so the Geo-Index is the alleged master map, the Rosetta Stone for his cartography of crime, as he calls it. Let's delve into the terminology he uses, because it's really unique. It illustrates the depth of his technical framework, mixing computer science, urban planning, even psychology.
Absolutely. First, the Geo-Index itself. As we said, it's more than just a map. It's dynamic. Think of a digital map overlaid with constantly updating data for surveillance, agent routing, logistics, planning criminal ops. Imagine a highly advanced, weaponized version of, say, Uber or DoorDash, but tracking targets, operatives, strategic locations instead of drivers and deliveries. From this, he derives the paramilitary score. This is a deterministic metric calculated straight from the Geo-Index data. It quantifies an individual's or property's strategic importance to the network based on some complex algorithm he claims to have reverse engineered. Those with the highest scores, the top 1%, are designated top dogs. This indicates their critical role or high value either as a target or an asset.
So it's like a ranking system for everyone and everything relevant to their operations, identifying key nodes. And how does he link people or places together within this map?
Yeah, that's where co-clustered with comes in. This term refers to entities, people, businesses, properties that his Spyhell pipeline algorithmically groups together. These groupings are based on shared features, behavioral patterns, proximity, things revealed by analyzing the Geo-Index data. The idea is it exposes hidden relationships that you wouldn't normally see. For instance, he claims his pipeline showed Paul Howe, a former Delta Force guy, allegedly co-clustered with Pierre Omidyar, the founder of eBay, suggesting, unexpected alliances or operational links. Then there's Dockerhood. This is a fascinating term, borrowed from computer science. Docker containers, right? Bundled applications.
Right.
Agua Marcano applies this concept to physical operational cells. Imagine a predefined blueprint for a localized spy network. A set layout for apartments or homes, each unit with a specific role. One for digital interception, maybe, another for physical surveillance, a third for logistics. The Dockerhood concept allows the network, he alleges, to rapidly deploy these pre-configured operational units into any strategic location globally. It ensures consistent, optimized surveillance and control without custom building each cell. It's like scalable, standardized espionage, an off-the-shelf spy kit you can deploy anywhere.
Wow, a prefabricated spy neighborhood. That's quite a concept. It speaks to a very methodical, almost industrial approach to espionage. What about the alleged financial side, or how they communicate internally?
Well, he describes equity ledger markers as a prime example of this covert communication and internal financial system. Aguirre Marcano suggests these aren't random street names like Two Gunway, which he connects to a specific legal team he alleges is involved, or just innocuous numbers you see on signs, property IDs, maybe phone numbers like 777. He claims these are deliberately chosen identifiers. They act as a public, yet disguised, ledger for network insiders. They signal who holds power, who has a financial stake, almost like a distributed, unwritten record of ownership within their alleged shadow economy. The idea that it protects against inflation is interesting, too. Maybe anchoring value to fixed symbols, not volatile currencies, creating a stable internal economy for their ops.
A hidden layer of meaning in plain sight.
Exactly. And then there's the familiar names pattern. This is more psychological. It's a tactic where aliases or property registrations use names that are familiar and positively associated with the target. The goal is to lower the target's defenses, create a false sense of familiarity or trust. The example given is James Shaw as an alias for someone named David Malero. Aguirre Marcano believes this alias combines his own brother-in-law's name with a former employer's name. Subconscious manipulation.
That's a deep level of psychological maneuvering, designed to disarm someone before they even realize they're a target. How does this alleged network use technology for, real-time tracking and covert comms?
He details the Google Fi trigger. This is how the network allegedly gets real-time alerts. When a target's phone connects to Google Fi, which has unique network switching capabilities, the network is immediately notified, he claims. This prompts the dispatch of surveillance assets to that location. He sees Google Fi itself as a critical vulnerability. Even more ingenious, maybe, is the concept of Google Street View photos as metadata. This one is wild.
Wait, Street View pictures, how does that even work?
Okay, so Aguirre Marcano claims the network uses seemingly innocuous objects in public Street View images. His example is 2 garbage cans and a cat, strategically placed. He says these objects encode operational instructions for agents on the ground. These instructions are then decoded using a proprietary app he calls the Hell app, which he attributes to Uber founder Travis Kalanick, alleging it was repurposed for clandestine ops. It's an extraordinary claim, right? Using publicly available image data as a covert global messaging system.
So they're essentially turning Google Maps into a massive encrypted bulletin board for spies.
That's
unsettlingly creative. What about protecting their own operations from being surveilled?
For that, he describes the immune geo-entities pattern. This is about architecture and urban planning. It involves the strategic use of open areas, parks, green spaces, maybe cul-de-sacs around key network properties. The purpose: to protect these locations from radio frequency eavesdropping. RF eavesdropping. By ensuring there are no dense buildings nearby, no easy spots to listen in from, it makes it physically harder for rivals to get close enough to intercept signals effectively. Creates a kind of electronic buffer zone. And to counter this, Aguirre Marcano developed his own tool, Radio Frequency Eavesdropping Avoidance Systems, or RFES. It's sophisticated software designed to detect and prevent signal interception attempts against his devices and communications. His countermeasure.
And his own vehicle plays a big role in his personal counter-surveillance, right? The KO Mobile.
Yes, his KOL Mobile. It's a custom-built, armored vehicle. He says it's meticulously equipped with a 360-degree array of 4K cameras, other advanced sensors. It serves as his mobile intelligence gathering platform. It's the primary source of raw data feeding his Spyhell pipeline visual, audio, RF data. He also identifies Starlink satellites controlled by Elon Musk, remember, as passive reflectors for the network's alleged Project Bouncer communication system.
Passive reflectors?
Yeah, essentially bouncing signals off them. Turning public infrastructure into covert communication relays allows for global, low-observable communication without needing traditional ground infrastructure. And when surveillance vehicles get exposed or compromised, he claims a front company called UES Trucks is used to quickly swap them out, maintaining operational continuity.
So the picture he paints is stark. This alleged PayPal Mafia isn't just a group. It's a complete self-sustaining architecture of control. From these concepts, we see an adversary that's supposedly not just tech-savvy, but also deeply psychological, using everything from satellites to street names, even relationships, to maintain secrecy and influence, weaponizing everyday tech and social patterns in ways that are, well, hard to even imagine.
Precisely. It's a vision of modern conflict where the battlefield is information and perception just as much as physical presence. Now, this alleged network in Aguirre Marcano's narrative isn't just abstract concepts. It's populated by specific individuals, each with alleged specialized roles, spanning diverse sectors: tech, intelligence, law. He's compiled this extensive dossier.
Do you give us a few examples? Who are some of these alleged operatives and what roles does he claim they play?
Certainly. He names Madhav Chinappa, for instance, former director of news ecosystem development at Google. Aguirre Marcano believes Chinappa built backdoors for search manipulation, spreading disinformation or fake news to control narratives online. Then there's Vida Ha, identified as a Chinese intelligence officer, allegedly infiltrated key tech companies like Google and Databricks to gather sensitive data. He names Francisco Godoy, a doctor allegedly posing as a Google engineer, who he accuses of drugging him at a concert back in 2018. An alleged act of physical incapacitation or maybe information extraction.
Okay, so it extends beyond tech manipulation into very personal targeting, even alleged physical acts.
Right. That's the claim. He details how this perceived influence permeates different sectors and individual lives. He points to figures like Albenis Hernandez, identifies him as a deep cover operative for Venezuelan intelligence, specifically SEBIN. Aguirre Marcano claims Hernandez has been a connector figure throughout his adult life, appearing at critical moments, orchestrating events. Even lawyers are implicated. Erica Rose and Charles Sanders, a Houston legal team, are identified as network assets, allegedly part of the same cell as Angela and Michael Cohen. Yes, that Michael Cohen. Aguirre Marcano notes the Cohens became millionaires and named their street 2 Gunway, which he flags as one of those equity ledger markers signaling their network status.
And the alleged exposure of this Venezuelan shipping magnate, Wilmer Ruperti, he claims that triggered a major escalation.
Yes, his alleged exposure of Wilmer Ruperti, identified as a key figure in Venezuelan sanctions evasion through his investigations. He claims that triggered a severe and noticeable escalation in harassment against him. Increased surveillance, direct threats, the works. He points to others, too. David Feinel Sr., described as the patriarch of a Venezuelan intelligence cell. Eduardo Hurtado, another alleged high-level Venezuelan intelligence operative, both supposedly involved in coordinated actions. Yudi Murillo, identified as Colombian military intelligence, implicated in an alleged honey trap operation designed to compromise him. Enrique Nava, alleged to be running a mini-compound command and control center, a localized Docker hood, and Sinead Strain, a top executive at Goldman Sachs, accused of orchestrating harassment against him from within the financial sector. It's an extensive list, isn't it? Individuals from diverse backgrounds, all allegedly connected within this sprawling PayPal Mafia network.
It's clear that in his mind, his personal life, his legal battles, and this alleged global network are completely inextricably intertwined. And he sees that motion for his psychiatric evaluation back in court, not just as a legal tactic, but as a pivotal move in this larger war.
Absolutely. What's really striking is how he interprets that motion. He calls it an unconstitutional attempt at preemptive censorship, designed explicitly, he believes, to gag respondent and censor his upcoming book. He views it as a direct, aggressive attack on his ability to expose this network and its operatives. He understands that publishing his findings would inflict significant damage, or so he believes. For him, this wasn't ever about his mental health. It was about silencing a whistleblower before he could speak.
So the network, he believes, feared what he was about to reveal. And that fear in his narrative actually became a key to his counter-strategy. How did he arrive at this rather unusual approach for fighting the psych evil?
Well, he credits a crucial revelation from a very unexpected source: Netflix documentaries.
Netflix.
Seriously. Aguiar Marcano states he uses these documentaries to train himself, even though he acknowledges or believes they are essentially propaganda. Produced by Luminant Media, which he identifies as a network-controlled company. He sees figures like former Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, people close to Robert Mueller, featured frequently, lending legitimacy, he thinks, while subtly pushing the network's agenda. His hypothesis was, if he could dissect their own propaganda, he could figure out what the network really feared, what their Achilles heel might be.
And what hidden fear did he supposedly uncover from these documentaries that became central to his strategy?
A specific segment on Guantanamo Bay apparently proved instrumental. A former presidential staffer, featured in one documentary, allegedly explained why prisoners at Guantanamo were deliberately not called prisoners. And the reason given in the documentary: to avoid granting them prisoner of war POW status, because POW status comes with internationally recognized human rights under the Geneva Conventions. This insight, Aguiar Marcano realized, potentially revealed the network's deep-seated fear: international law, particularly the concept of POW status, which would grant him significant protections and could trigger global scrutiny.
Okay, so here's where he turns that insight into a direct counteroffensive. He starts sending letters to the embassies of countries he believes are controlled by this network, asserting his POW status. But he kind of redefines captivity for modern warfare, right? Arguing that being surrounded by, 50,000 controlled agents is a form of imprisonment, even without literal bars.
Exactly. He fundamentally believes his presence in a territory heavily controlled by what he alleges are foreign agents, with constant surveillance and psychological operations manipulating his environment. That effectively makes him a prisoner of war under an expanded definition suitable for modern conflict. It's a crucial distinction from traditional physical incarceration. So during that September 8th hearing, Morgan Hibner, his ex-partner's attorney, presents one of these POW letters as an exhibit. Her apparent goal, according to Aguiar Marcano, was to paint him as crazy to the court, make him look delusional. And she directly asks him on the stand why he thought he could ask for asylum.
But this question he claims was a huge blunder on her part, an unforced error with big implications for the record.
Indeed. A terrible mistake, he calls it. Aguiar Marcano immediately clarifies on the stand. He already has political asylum. It was granted to him by the Canadian government way back in 2002 against the Venezuelan government. This makes him a protected person under the 1951 Refugee Convention. That status carries specific international legal weight. He stressed to the court, "I'm not asking for asylum, I'm asking for POW status," a completely distinct and frankly far more serious claim under international humanitarian law. Different rights, different obligations. He views Hibner's question as inadvertently letting him put his recognized refugee status on the court record, undermining the crazy narrative she was building, and challenging the court's very authority to order a psych evil on a legally protected person. It became a critical piece of information, now officially documented.
So he basically turned her attempt to paint him as crazy into an opportunity to formally establish his protected status in court. And he even suggests this mistake might have been intentional, a gift from someone inside the network controlling her.
He does float that idea, yes, suggesting it might have been a subtle push to reveal his status, maybe to escalate things, or perhaps signal some internal dissent within the network itself. It adds another layer of intrigue, doesn't it, on top of an already complex legal maneuver. Suggests this almost Machiavellian chess game playing out. It raises that question: how information, even used against you, can be strategically flipped to your advantage, especially when it brings in international legal protections. Maybe the network is prone to missteps due to internal dynamics, or maybe it was a controlled leak for a larger goal. Who knows? But for Aguiar Marcano, it was a moment of vindication. using the adversary's tools against them, transforming an attempt to discredit him into a chance to solidify his protected status in court.
Okay, so the September 8th hearing wraps up with these fascinating twists around his protected status. But the conflict didn't end there. It escalated quickly, leading to another hearing just a few days later on September 11th. Aguiar Marcano describes this one as a procedural ambush, a rendition hearing that completely blindsided him.
Yes, that's his account. The hearing on September 11th was initially scheduled only to discuss interim attorney's fees, a relatively minor procedural matter. However, Aguiar Marcano claims that Morgan Hibner suddenly, and without proper prior notice, declared it a rendition hearing, meaning the judge would issue substantive rulings on the entire case, not just the fees. A complete shift in scope. This, he argues, was a clear denial of due process, ambushing him, preventing him from adequately preparing or presenting arguments on major issues like custody. He says he tried to raise concerns about these due process violations, argued that negotiations and previous proceedings were tainted by the pending psych-evil issue, but Judge Telfair reportedly shut him down, refused to entertain his arguments about the procedural unfairness.
And what were the judge's rulings after this unexpected change in the hearing's purpose?
Well, Judge Telfair declined to order the psychiatric evaluation. That was a significant, if partial, win for Aguiar Marcano, prevented that specific avenue of silencing him. However, the judge notably stated he was still on the fence about Aguiar Marcano's mental state. Aguiar Marcano doesn't interpret this as genuine doubt. He sees it as a deliberate move by the judge, a way to discredit him without outright validating the crazy claims, perhaps acknowledging the international implications of ordering an evil on a recognized refugee while still casting doubt on his credibility. A nuanced dismissal.
But the ruling didn't stop at just denying the psych evil, right? He says the judge then made other decisions that seemed contradictory.
Correct. Despite refusing the psych evil, Judge Telfair then granted Gloria Espina sole custody of their child. He severely restricted Aguiar Marcano's freedoms regarding the child, like moving and controversially ordered supervised visitations for Aguiar Marcano. And here's the kicker. Gloria Espina herself was designated as the supervisor.
His accuser is the supervisor.
Exactly. Aguiar Marcano views this as fundamentally unconstitutional, especially given the denial of the psych evil. He highlights that Hibner herself had previously stated the psych evil and the conservatorship request went hand in hand. So, denying the evaluation but granting the restrictive custody and supervision orders, he argues that's unjustifiable, a severe restriction of his parental rights, suggesting a deeper agenda beyond just the legal merits.
Okay, this sounds like a critical piece feeding into his distributed attack theory, where seemingly legal actions become weapons.
Yeah.
How does he connect these specific rulings to that overarching narrative?
He interprets these rulings, point blank, as handing his former partner a powerful weapon, the child itself, specifically to coerce him into shutting up about the alleged network. And he claims he immediately put this theory to the test, like right after the hearing. In the car with his former partner, he deliberately mentioned the name David Malero, the alias Daniel King Everett, who he identifies as a key alleged network operative. Her immediate reaction, he says, threatening to withhold the child until he saw a psychiatrist and took pills for making irrational statements. For him, this confirmed his distributed attack theory. It was a direct, undeniable link, in his eyes, between him exposing an alleged operative and the immediate weaponization of his parental rights using the court's order.
Wow. So a direct cause and effect, he believes. Mention the name, get the threat back by the court order. That really highlights the insidious nature of what he calls a distributed attack.
Exactly. He argues that while the individual actions the judges ordered, the mother using that power might look legal in isolation, their coordinated effect constitutes a crime. The crime of coercion, attempted silencing of a witness. This is central to his theory. Seemingly disparate legal actions, when combined and orchestrated, reveal a concerted illegal campaign to pressure and control him. It demonstrates, in his view, how a global network could operate through apparently localized legal mechanisms to achieve broader illicit objectives.
He also mentioned seeing more mistakes by the network around this time, attempts to create confusion or obscure identities.
Yes, he details what he sees as attempts to create confusion, particularly with names, a hallmark, he believes, of their operational security tactics. For instance, he claims Morgan Hibner introduced an email from a Brittany at Twitter during court. Aguiar Marcano interprets this not as a simple mistake, but as a deliberate act to create confusion and protect the real Bree Hardy, whom he identifies as a crucial FSB agent allegedly working within the network. So confusion around the name. He notes another example. Tina Simon, a paralegal at Adams Law Firm, versus Bettina Simon, a lawyer whose registration had conveniently expired. He alleges the network uses similar names to potentially sacrifice less important people, like the paralegal, while protecting key operatives like the alleged lawyer by creating plausible deniability through name confusion.
And the timing of that affidavit from his ex-partner, the one doubting his mental capacity,
Yeah.
that also raised flags for him.
A huge red flag in his view. He points out that the petitioner's affidavit outlining concerns about his mental state and erratic behavior was filed on June 30th. That was the very next business day after mediation talks had officially failed on June 27th. The timing, he argues, is critical. It wasn't filed earlier, suggesting a pre-existing no. Its immediate appearance right after mediation failed indicated to him it was a fallback tactic, activated only when settlement failed. This, combined with the earlier alleged recorded admission that the Psyche-Vol was a weapon, further supports his claim of bad faith litigation. It showed a calculated move, he believes, not an organic concern, underscoring the reactive, strategic nature of the network's alleged legal maneuvers.
So with the family court doors seemingly slammed shut and feeling the process was corrupt against him, Aguirre Marcano made a big move. He significantly raised the stakes by taking his fight to federal court.
Yes, this was a strategic shift born, he felt, out of absolute necessity. Aguirre Marcano states he exhausted all the local legal channels in family court. Motions to recuse the judge, motions to reconsider rulings, motions for judicial notice of his refugee status. He notes his motions were largely ignored, swiftly denied. Meanwhile, Hibner's team seemed to schedule hearings with just 2 days' notice, no problem. This perceived bias, this systemic procedural obstruction, solidified his belief that federal intervention wasn't just an option. It was essential to get anything resembling impartial justice.
And he didn't start a new federal case, right? He amended an existing one.
Precisely. Smart move procedurally. He amended his existing class action lawsuit, Aguirre v. Musk et al., already active in the Southern District of Texas. And in a highly targeted way, he added several key alleged agents to this federal lawsuit. These individuals, he claims, Morgan Hibner had implicitly flagged as sensitive or important during that September 8th state court hearing, suggesting they were particularly vulnerable points for the network. These new defendants included some big names: Robert Mueller, the former FBI director, whom Aguirre Marcano alleges lives near him. Also, Phil Denning, Daniel King Everett, who he says is David Malero, and Bree Hardy, along with specific police officers he claims failed to file reports or acted negligently, indicating their alleged complicity.
And he didn't just pull these names out of a hat. He used his own algorithm to select them, this crime boost thing.
Yes, he utilized what he calls his Nav Boost of Crime algorithm, later referred to as Crime Boost. This algorithm, he claims, ranks individuals by their alleged monetary importance to the network, their danger level, their proximity to leadership, and core operations. He specifically targeted those with exceptionally high paramilitary scores, that metric from his Geo-Index, and significant potential liability in a lawsuit, making the addition strategically impactful, not random. It was a calculated move to hit the network where he believed it was most vulnerable, specifically in a federal legal context.
Okay, now this leads us to what he describes as the network's most significant mistake, a potential game-over scenario he calls the life equation collision. Sounds dramatic.
It does sound dramatic, drawing on DC Comics lore. Aguirre Marcano believes the imminent collision within the same federal court documents of David Malero, alias Daniel King Everett, and Gloria Espina is the network's potential undoing. In his analogy, the life equation sustains the network's secrecy. The anti-life equation destroys it. He argues the entire operation hinges on maintaining the illusion that these two, Malero, a key alleged operative, and Espina, his ex-partner, allegedly used as a weapon, don't know each other or aren't connected. Now that they're directly linked in public federal filings, he anticipates this will trigger deep investigations. Phone records, GPS data, shared locations. He believes these investigations will irrefutably expose the network's operational secrecy and, crucially, could lead to a Rykako case, racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. That carries severe federal penalties.
It sounds like he genuinely believes federal court is a different league entirely for this alleged network, a place their usual tactics might not work.
He definitely observes, or claims to observe, a stark difference in the network's reaction to federal filings compared to state court. This, he suggests, indicates a profound fear of federal oversight. Federal court brings greater investigative power, broader jurisdiction, much higher risk of exposure for a large-scale criminal enterprise. For Aguirre Marcano, this federal move isn't just escalation, it's the definitive moment where the rules fundamentally change and the network's carefully built secrecy starts to potentially unravel. He thinks they fear federal scrutiny because it's harder to compromise or manipulate than local systems.
And what were the immediate reactions he observed? Anything tangible after he notified them of the federal filings?
He describes immediate, quite unusual activity. Within an hour, he says, of notifying Morgan Hibner, he observed easy fiber trucks working on multiple houses in his neighborhood simultaneously, highly unusual, he claims. Speculates they were uninstalling covert surveillance gear. Additionally, alleged agents, like this Michael Prettyfellow whom he rarely sees outside, suddenly became unusually visible, playing with his child, conspicuously giving away furniture. Aguirre Marcano interprets this as the network reacting to imminent federal exposure, trying to remove evidence, present a facade of normalcy, maybe disengagement, almost like packing up shop before the investigators arrive.
And he also observed a new and frankly disturbing tactic involving drivers.
Yes, a new tactic involving women, whom he identifies as Chinese, driving vehicles with their faces obscured, often with children in the passenger seat. He theorizes this is a specific type of honey trap, designed to provoke him into taking and posting videos of minors online. The intention, he believes, to create grounds for immediate, severe legal action against him, child endangerment, illegal filming charges, neutralize him and discredit his claims in a way that would be very hard to fight. It's alleged psychological warfare aimed at entrapment, leveraging sensitive social and legal norms.
Chilling. And finally, one last detail he found telling, discovered right at the courthouse itself during all this.
Yeah, on September 11th, while he was preparing his exhibits for federal court at the Fort Bend County Courthouse, he noticed the public Wi-Fi network name. It was named Wolf. He identifies Wolf as a prominence marker for network-controlled entities within his geo-index analysis, a kind of internal network signature or tag. For him, this wasn't coincidence. It was a direct signal, he believes, of the network's alleged infiltration of the court's own IT infrastructure. Cementing his belief the system itself was compromised. It was, in his view, another subtle Easter egg left by the network, a sign of their reach and control, even within the halls of justice.
Wow. This has truly been an extraordinary journey into a narrative that just defies conventional understanding. We've navigated a really complex deep dive today, haven't we? From the minute details of a Texas courtroom all the way to these sweeping allegations of a global espionage network. Ronaldo J. Aguirre Marcano's experience, as he presents it, highlights this stark collision of personal life with an alleged covert world, where digital data, legal maneuvers, psychological tactics all intertwine in a way that, well, it really challenges our perception of reality.
It absolutely does. And this narrative, I think, prompts a really provocative thought for all of us listening. Consider how, in this age of ubiquitous technology, hyperconnectivity, constant surveillance, how the line between a seemingly personal dispute, like a divorce, and a broader hidden conflict might blur, might become indistinguishable even. If one individual can allege such an intricate web of control and counter-operations, leveraging everything from satellite networks to obscure street names, what does that imply about the nature of power, privacy, and justice in our increasingly digital society? What unseen wars, fought with data and influence, might be playing out around us, maybe subtly impacting our own lives? And maybe the most unsettling question is, how would we even begin to decipher them?